Okay, my name is Colleen VEITZ. I've been here at Liberty Station in the Arts District for over 10 years. I do predominantly acrylic, mixed media, but I love all mediums. I do printmaking and sculpture and other things as well. I started when I was very young making mud pies and peeling bark off and looking at leaves and trees, and I just love nature so much. And so I've always had a curiosity and made collages and things that I didn't realize were art until later. I went to St. Mary's, Notre Dame, and then Savannah College of Art and Design for school. And I've been very, very fortunate to be here in the Arts District. There's been a ton of support in the community. I've had 3 galleries here in San Diego County in the last 25, 30 years. Moved to San Diego and opened a gallery on F and 9th called Fuse Gallery a long time ago. Briefly worked for the Contemporary Museum in La Jolla, and after I had children, I realized this contribution from the Navy to the city of San Diego was going to be for arts and culture. I was super curious, and I decided it was worth it. So I came down probably about 12 years ago. Oh, well, so when I moved in, I decided I was going to do something that I called a 4x4. So I wanted to work with 4 not-for-profits, have 4 collaborative experiences with other artists, 4 visiting artists, and then 4 installations or painting exhibitions of my own. And I thought that the exhibition of my own work was going to be the easiest. And doing the collaborative stuff was so overwhelmingly positively received that I worked with a lot of artists here, and I had to limit the number of not-for-profits and businesses around here, but it created a bond here in San Diego that I think no other town could have given me. So I went to St. Mary's College for my BFA and Notre Dame for selected courses for my master's, and then I finished my master's degree at Savannah College of Art and Design in Georgia. Well, I was very fortunate to be in a talented and gifted program on the Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs, and I had an exhibition at the library there, and I had a teacher purchase a painting of a cat that I drew, and I drew it off of an advertisement out of a magazine, but it made me realize that I just did that for fun off the coffee table, you know, while Mork and Mindy was on back. I just was kind of sketching, and then to have somebody really recognize that that's something that they wanted and appreciated it, I realized that that's something I could do for other people. And my work isn't for everyone, but I have a lot of people that connect with nature in my process. My dreams are totally attainable, and all I have to do is look back at the people that mentored me. It makes me kind of emotional to talk about, but I had some fantastic artists from Los Angeles and San Diego County mentor me with my work, and I thought it was going to mean that I would make a lot of money selling it, but what it was about is about how to live and connect with your community and how to share what you want to do with the arts educational process where you are. And I think with the people that are here and with what I'm doing, that will be really fun to do forward. So I'm right in my lane.
Okay, my name is YAHEL, and I'm originally from Mexico City. I've been painting my entire life. I come from a family of artists, and I think I have the artist gene. So what you're seeing here is my latest show. I painted 100 paintings in 100 days, and they're all alla prima paintings. Every day I was painting for mostly about 1 hour, and I painted subjects that were in my household. So they're insignificant things with significance. Like, for example, this is my favorite. These are Ritz crackers. I love Ritz crackers. This is a Mexican doll. Like this is the Windex, so it's insignificant, or it's very useful in our lives. And I have a display here so you can see. So I've been painting my entire life, and I've been taking art classes most of my life. And I started as a professional artist. My first solo show was in 2012 as a printmaker. And from there I began to expand and having shows around town. My main subject to paint they're chairs. I paint a lot of chairs, like those over there. So what I try to do with those is to portrait them. I give them personality and life. In my studio, we share the studio. We're 5 artists in here. This is the gallery area. I like to try different subjects and different collections. So I go from one collection to the next one because I like to play. The canvas is my playground, so I like to paint whatever comes to my mind and whatever I feel. I specialize in oil paintings, but I like to experiment with different mediums. I also paint with acrylics. I use clay. I do watercolors. I do pencil. So I'm gonna keep playing and hopefully bring smiles in people's faces. Drawing. It was black and white, and they were chairs, and I couldn't believe that people were interested in buying my art, and it felt really amazing. The first biggest sale that I made, it was through my teacher, my oil painting teacher, and he called me on a Sunday afternoon. I'm like, why is he calling me today? And he said, there's people interested in buying 2 of your paintings. I'm like, oh, okay, sell them. Yeah.
My name is KARLA PRECIADO. I'm a nature painter. I do my art, and my main medium is acrylic. My artistic journey started maybe like 18 years ago. My husband is a retired military, so we were stationed in Spain for 2 years, and this was, I think, like 18 years ago. So I was trying to fill a creative void, and I just wandered into this community center where they offered a lot of different classes, like dancing and ceramics. So I decided to take oil painting, and I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the, painting, created something out of nothing, basically. So since then, my art has evolved because I started representationally, and now it's more abstractly. So yeah, I am pretty much self-taught. I have been taking, over the years, I've taken a lot of different classes and workshops, and my art has evolved through learning and exploring and just experimenting on the canvas. So it's pretty much self-taught. Oh, it was amazing. I mean, because you create for yourself, right? You create because it's something that you want to get out of. It's a form of self-expression, and when somebody else connects with your art, it's fabulous. I mean, I think that's why we do it, to connect with people and other humans. So yeah, it was thrilling.
What was it?
It was a landscape. It was an abstract landscape. Well, I see this as a long term. I love to paint, so I can't really see myself doing anything else. This is my passion. This is what I love. And yeah, just evolving and experimenting with more with acrylics. And almost a year ago, I'm going to be here a year in July. And it's been great. I love this place. The community, the artist community is wonderful. We all feed off of each other and creatively. So it's been great. Yeah. Yeah. So my art is, I say that my art is not only about places, they're about emotions. So it's how I connect with nature. Being in nature, for me, is joyful, it is freedom. I try to paint the beauty in it, and I do it through color. Because color evokes emotion also. So that's what I try to do, to get people to feel something through my art. Inspiration comes from being out there in nature, taking hikes, going to the beach, going on trips, and then I absorb all the beauty, and I absorb the feeling of being in nature, and that's what I bring into the canvas. It's not, I take pictures just to remember, but it's more the feeling that I get out there, and that's what I translate onto the canvas. No, because I need all my materials. And if I go out there, I'm more limited, and I like to get messy. I like to be on the floor and pour paintings, splash painting. I mean, I'm a very messy painter, so I like having all my materials. So yeah.
My name is Sherri Hayes, and I'm an artist here at Five Art, and I love it here. I've been an artist for a number of years, but originally it started when I was in grade school, and I was a ceramicist, and I won the ceramics award when I was in 4th grade. You didn't know that, did you? Sure. Yeah. And so I didn't paint at all until about 15 years ago. I took an art workshop in University Heights by the name of a woman by the name of Catherine Gralwin. And she was such an inspiration and such a good teacher. I fell in love with art, and I fell in love with oil painting especially. All right, so I took this class in University Heights by this woman, Catherine Gralwin, and I really fell in love with oil. And I've been pursuing it ever since. I always drew, since I was a young child, I drew all the time, but I never did any oil painting. I did a little watercolor, but recently I became an oil painter, and I just love it. I love the thickness and the buttery feel that the oil painting gives me. And you can tell, you know, I just really love it. So I first began in my home, in my garage, like a lot of people do. I started in my garage, and since that time, I've been in this gallery and studio for 2 years. And that is the only gallery I've been in, except in La Jolla. I was in another gallery for a few years before. But as far as a studio space, it's been in my home or over here in Five Art. Like in this case here, I did this piece, and I just went over it, and I more abstracted the piece. I put a palette knife over, and I brought some of the colors from the ocean into the land, and the land out into the ocean, and I'm doing more abstract work, which I really love. But it still feels like an ocean, but it's more abstract. My art is from my mind, yeah. Pieces from my mind here, pieces from out in the open air, pieces like this that I had just a photo that I took, and I did that piece from. So my art comes from a lot of different sources. You'll see that it's mostly the sea, and there's a big reason for that. I used to be a captain, and I used to sail a lot, and so I do a lot in the sea. But that wasn't where my passions end. I'm now a golf professional, and so now I do more portraits of not portraits, but landscapes of the golf courses themselves.
I've been an artist for as long as I can remember. It started in early childhood, preschool really. I used to paint wooden fences with water, and when they'd dry, I'd go back and paint them again. From a Reader's Digest book, I would copy the images on canvas with oils, and was doing that at a very, very young age. I would also copy record covers, and I was self-taught when it came to color and value. At a very young age, my mother passed away. I went to university, put myself through that, and then came to the United States many years ago. I had never forgotten the prophecy that my mother had said to me that I would be a great artist and art teacher, and I always followed that path in everything that I did. Back in 1995, here in San Diego, I was given an opportunity by a sale of a property to open up my own art studio in Bird Rock. And I have been in business ever since that time, 31 years this year. I was one of the first founding artists here in San Diego to open a retail fine art instruction. In fact, I still operate that service today. I have taught over 20,000 people how to paint with oils. I have my own methodologies that work with color and value that make it very easy, a 4-step process to produce a painting from start to finish on canvas. I opened my first space. It was very small, only 400 square feet. After that, I opened up a much larger one, about 3,000 square feet. Basically, I kept moving because of life situations. I had some children. I moved to Mission Hills, so I closed my La Jolla studios and moved my business to Mission Hills. I went from one space up on Goldfinch, and then I finally ended up on Fort Stockton Drive in 2 other spaces there until I finally came back here to La Jolla just a couple of years ago after going to Australia. I think one of the first paintings that I ever sold, I was in obviously my new gallery down in Bird Rock, and it was a large piece. I think it was 24 by 36, and it was of the Arboretum, the botanical building in Balboa Park. I think that was one of the first ones I sold. I was doing a lot of outdoor painting at that time, so I sold a lot of scenes of San Diego back then. Yeah, most of my business actually comes from online. I have a really big online presence. I think I have like 20,000 followers on Instagram, but it's my website. Everything that you see here is on my website. My whole story, there are videos, all the media, documentaries, scientific papers. So I was one of the first people to get a website back in 1995 when .com first started. In fact, it was rare. I don't think I knew anyone else who had one. But the partner I had at the time was in media and produced digital marketing. And so I was very fortunate to get into that space right up front. So if you were to Google me, for instance, or if you were to Google tetrachromacy, everything about me comes up. I'm very well represented with millions of hits all over the internet, yeah. So as much as you might think it's great to be here in La Jolla in this space, yes, I do get walk-in, but I also get a lot of people from all over the world. My art sells all over the world at this point, and that comes from online. And even in the United States, a lot of my purchases come from other states and other locations. I just sent a print to Germany just last week, so it's amazing how, I've had a lot of media, as I've said to you, and I'm pretty much a worldwide brand at this point. If you Google tetrachromacy, which is a scientific phenomenon that's, now being well documented, I am the human example that they give online and on any kind of AI search. Everything about me and my website comes up as to being the specimen, if you like, of the human expression of having 4 color rods in my eyes. It all started with my daughter, who's now 24. She was about 8. She came home from school one day and she said, "Mommy, I can't see when the teacher writes with orange on the whiteboard at school." And I thought, well, that's odd. And again, this was in 2010, maybe. And I said, and I called the teacher, and she said, "No, she's wearing her glasses. She's in the front row. I don't know what it is." So I proceeded, like any parent, to take her to an ophthalmologist, have her tested, and I watched while she failed. She's colorblind. Now, her father's colorblind, but I didn't know that her colorblindness was a result of my mutation, okay? So I didn't know that at the time, and we just kind of pressed on. Then I had several students come in, and they would comment on the alchemy in my work and the color in my work, and they'd say it's very unusual. And then I had one student in particular, he worked in tech for Cisco Systems, and he loved to read the Smithsonian. And he came in one day and he said, I think you're one of these. And I said, one of what? And he said, and I read about fourth receptor color in women, da-da-da-da-da. And, you know, he would paint a lot. We'd go out and paint outdoors, and he could see the color use in my work. And I read it, and he was a bit of a joker. And I kind of said, oh, yeah, me and everyone else, you know, because I thought, wow, if I had that, wouldn't it be amazing? But, of course, you don't think it's you. About another year after that, I had a neuroscientist come in to take lessons with me. And she walked into my gallery where my work was hanging in Mission Hills. And she said, what is it about your work? And I said, I don't know. I get asked and I said, what do you mean? She said, the color. She said, there's an alchemy in your work. Again, she used that same thing. It's very avatar-ish. You know, there's something about your work. I can't put my finger on it. It's holographic. It's different. And I don't know why, but for some reason, I pulled that article out of the back of my mind, and I laughed and I said, maybe it's my fourth receptor. And she's a research scientist. And she looked at me and she said, what do you mean? I said, oh, it's nothing. Someone showed me an article once about women who can see more color. Anyway, she went off, and she didn't know about my daughter. She just knew about my art. She told me that she bought a bunch of paintings because she said she's going to buy them now before she can't afford them anymore, because she thought they were so rare. She now owns over 100 of them, which is very cool. I've produced over 1,000 pieces and more every time. Every time I have a show, there's about 30 or so more new pieces. Anyway, she sent me an article. It was November 2012. I was making pancakes for the kids to send them off to school. My studio, my gallery was in Mission Hills. I lived in Mission Hills. And she said, Concetta, I think you better read these. And I thought, okay, I'll get the kids off to school, do all that. And I opened up the first one, and in the first paragraph of the first bibliography that she had sent me, which was written by 3 scientists from Johns Hopkins, Cambridge University, and University of Washington. In the first line, or the first paragraph of the first one they opened up, it said, women who have the potential for tetrachromacy also have the potential to create a colorblind female offspring. And the penny dropped, and I went, you know what, maybe there's something to this. So I Googled, and it was the year of Googling and finding all of that, and I Googled all the different doctors who had written this article, and that day I sent a mass email to them. I found their email addresses on their university websites, and I said, subject line, possible fourth receptor artist with colorblind daughter. And within 20 minutes, Dr. Jane Knights, that's N-E-I-T-Z, or Z, from University of Washington, was on my cell phone. He said, hi, Concetta, I've just received your email, and I have a film crew here from Fuji Television who do a program called Science Mystery, and they and I have been looking for a tetrachromat to put into this production for over a month, and they're about a week out of leaving to go back to Japan because we can't find someone. If I sent down a vial, would you spit in it and send it back to me if I sent it down by UPS? So it arrived at my house the next morning. I did what he said. I sent it back, and the next thing I was on a plane going up to the University of Washington. That's like that story. Yes, I was in the production. Yes, I'm a tetrachromat, but I'm not just a tetrachromat, and that's where the story continues. They filmed me, they flew down to my school, they put 12 of my students, I arranged 12 of my students to come in and be there, and they asked me to leave the room. And when I went back into the room, they said, raise your hand if your teacher sees colors that you can't see. And they all raised their hand. Hung jury. It was like the cold water in the face. I'm like, wow, why didn't anybody tell me? They just thought I'm the teacher, so they just thought it was like that. But a few people, like I said, Wendy and Steve, they said something. Then they went back. Dr. Jay Knights, he deals in color blindness. And then my PR agency, I got a PR agency. I thought, okay, you have to grow this. And it's not just that I had it. It's that gifted through whatever, genetically gifted, a unique combination. Me, my brain, I have a light factor that's 7 times higher than regular vision. So you have a luminance factor. Regular vision has a 7. It's how much light their eyes let. Mine's a 14, and it's exponential. I have that. I have my brain. I have the fact that I've been painting since I was this big. You grow it. It's like having superior muscles in your legs, but you never won the gold at the Olympics because you never trained. All these thousands of people that I taught, following my destiny, painting since a small child, the person that I am, where my extra cone is in my eyes is in what the scientists call the sweet spot. It's in the perfect orange-yellow zone that it needs to be to make this the highest potential that it can be. As my scientist who studies me now, Dr. Kimberly Jameson at University of Irvine, she's university up there. She's been studying me now since about 2013. She says, Concetta, you're not just a unicorn, you're a rainbow unicorn. Every test that they've done, extensive testing, they can't find anybody else who can see the spectrum of color, which is up to give you some idea, regular vision, normal vision, you can perceive with training up to 1 million colors. My color sphere is 100 million colors. I see up to 100 million more colors than regular vision. And you see this in my work, nuances of color, okay? So then it went from there. I've been featured in documentaries. I'm in, textbooks. Doctors are talking about me, scientists. I've got University of Arizona doing testing on me right now. Next Friday, I'm being flown to Japan by the Japanese to meet with their color scientists. And Dr. Jameson is also going, and there's a convention, and I'm the star attraction. I'm subject CA in all of the scientific papers that have been written about me. Yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
I think she should bring me with her so I can document.
Yeah. If I could, I would. But that's a little bit about the story. So yes, very unique. Funny that my mother called it out, before she passed away. Funny that I kept on the journey even when things were difficult in my life. Funny that I never gave up. Interesting that the right kind of people mentioned things. Unusual that, I happen to be the perfect, the perfect storm, the perfect human specimen for having 4 color rods. But again, if I hadn't had the life journey that I had, if I hadn't been a master painter, all my paintings are done in one sitting with no correction. There's no changes. They're just birthed in one sitting. Something like this takes me about 4 hours. And it's because of what my brain is doing. So I'm like a computer with color and value. And if you know anything about painting, which you probably know a little bit, painting is made up of 3 things: shape, color, and value. And so for me, doing color and value of anything that I'm looking at, my eyes see it, my brain's already gone, oh, it's right there. That's how you make it. That's the color. So I make color and value, value being a shade of color, on a dime, just like a computer. And it's that, 100,000 hours of painting. When you combine that with what I can see with the skill that I've learned since I've been 3, you get this